Welcome to Knit Together with Kim and Jonna. I'm Kim.
And I'm not Jonna. I'm Pat.
That's right. Jonna did not get a haircut. We have our friend Pat joining us today. And Jonna is not here because she's been traveling to Texas with her family and she's just been really busy. And this video is going to be about our Pat and my Vogue Knit Live weekend. So we're really excited to share about it. And the reason Pat is joining me is because we were roomies. I don't know if I've mentioned that at all in any of the other videos, but Pat can tell you how that happened. But anyway, so we just want to welcome Pat and just thank her. This is not easy, sitting in front of a camera. And just wondering what kind of silly things are going to come out of your mouth. But thank you so much, Pat, for joining me. And I had such a fun weekend. And I just want you to introduce yourself now and say, like where you live and your knitting history and how we met and how in the world we ended up being roomies in New York City.
I'll be glad to. Well, first, thank you for inviting me. This is exciting, a little nerve-wracking, but I'm looking forward to doing this with you. And I live in Kensington, Maryland, which is just north of DC. I'm between the cities of Bethesda and Silver Spring, so more people might know where those cities are. I've been knitting, though, just since 2005, so almost 20 years. But I was taught by a friend at church when I admired her shawl, and she told me she made it. So she said, I can teach you how to do this. I said, no, I've always wanted to, but she did. And I did the typical hats and shawls and simple things, baby sweaters, booties. And then I finally retired in 2019, and I was determined then to learn how to do adult garments and socks. I always wanted to make socks. So that's what I've been doing really since 2019. And when I retired, I was out in California. We moved back east. That's what brought me to the East Coast. I have children in the DC area, a brother just outside of DC as well. And then I started getting to go to Rhinebeck and Maryland Sheep and Wool and Vogue Knitting Live. So that really helped enhance my skill level with classes and also purchasing. Found so many beautiful things to buy. I had tickets to go to the Vogue this year, and I was going with a very dear friend that I'd gone with for the last 2 years. But unfortunately, she had a family illness that made her have to cancel. And Kim and I were doing a Cable 3 Zoom, which I'm a Cable 3 member of Kim and Jonna. And she was mentioning that she wanted to go to Vogue, but Jonna was not able to go. And she's saying, I don't know what I'm going to do, where I'm going to stay. So I just piped up and said, I have a room with 2 queen beds, and I'd be more than glad to share it with you. And that's what we did. And we had a wonderful time.
We did. It was so fun. And I didn't even hesitate because we've met a couple times previously and
correct
on our Cable 3 Zoom. So just so everybody knows, on our YouTube channel, we have memberships. You don't have to be a member to view all of our regular material, our regular content. But there's 3 levels, Knit 1s, Purl 2s, and Cable 3s. And the perks for all the members, so starting with Knit 1, is we release our videos 1 day early. So they can watch, as long as I can get them edited in time, we release the videos 1 day early to the members, and that also facilitates us being able to answer their comments first. And then the Purl 2s have an added perk that we post additional little snippets, outtakes, silly things that didn't make it into the video, and so we'll post those, and they can see those. And then the Cable 3s get a monthly Zoom with us. So how many of us are usually on every Zoom?
I think it tends to average around 10 to 12. We get a pretty good number. One thing I want to mention too, I had been a member of Kim and Jonna, and at the Rhinebeck Festival, we went to the Woolen Folk, which this was in 2022, beautiful area along the Hudson River, and I was wearing this. I had my Kim and Jonna t-shirt on. And
yeah, we had just come out with our merch.
I know. Funny. I was hoping that you would be there. I don't know if I was really sure you were coming or not. I know you had spoken on your podcast about having gone to the first one in 2021. But all of a sudden, I'm sitting on this little grassy area, and there I see Kim and Jonna. I went running over, and it was so exciting to get to meet the two of you in person for the first time.
And you were wearing, the first time maybe the only time you've
Yes.
ever seen somebody wearing one of our t-shirts. But yeah, so yeah, thank you so much for always supporting us. Yeah, we're just so grateful. And now, honestly, we've become friends from all these Cable 3 Zooms. It's become like, Jonna explains it, and it's become like our little knitting group, because Jonna and I, just life gets away from you, and it's much easier to Zoom from your house in the middle of the craziness. We don't even go off into the Pick Up Every Stitch knit night. They have it, I think, on Thursdays. We've gone a couple times, but with our families and all the demands, we just don't make it all the time. But we always make time for our Cable 3 Zooms. So we have a knitting group that's really all over the world, right? It's so fun.
Oh, yes. Australia, New Zealand, Europe. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's really fun. All right. So is there anything else you want us to know about you?
Well, I have 4 knitworthy children and 4 knitworthy grandchildren, so that keeps me busy with my knitting.
Yeah.
Plus a good husband, too.
There you go. Who gives you time to knit, or not gives you time, but you know what I mean. Encourages it. Yes. Okay. So once again, thank you, Pat. So how's it going so far? You feeling okay?
Yeah, I think it's going okay.
Okay. This is actually a little weird for me too, because I've never done this. We had one interview where we had Kristen Lehrer, but Jonna kind of led that one. Jonna and Kristen had been in contact much earlier than I was ever in contact with Kristen. So John, I kind of sat there and chimed in when I want to, but Jonna was kind of in charge of that, like asking the questions and everything. So, oh wait, we have her here, right? There she is. But when I knew Jonna couldn't come, I knew people would want to know where she is and get pictures with us, but she's not there. So I decided to print this beautiful picture of her, and it's on a stick. And I brought it with me. And little did I realize when I submitted the picture that her head would be like 3 times bigger than anybody else's.
Yeah, but flat Jonna went everywhere with us.
Flat Jonna went everywhere. And it was funny now that I'm holding it. Just, it's kind of unstable. So I started a few pictures holding it like this, and it looks like she's thinking. So I had to make really, like, I don't know. But anyway, so we have a few pictures. Maybe I'll insert, maybe at the end, any pictures that you and I have that we want to keep, like, show, we'll put them at the very end in like a slideshow. How's that sound? So you can send me any pictures you want me to post. So there's Jonna. Right. She's here with us in spirit, but we miss real Jonna.
Good.
So, okay. So let's get started. We communicated a bit with a text message before we went to Vogue Knit Live, right? And you added me to the reservation, which was so helpful, because in the end, what Pat will tell you in a minute, but she had signed up for a big package. This was like a treat for herself. So she signed up for this big package and a bunch of classes. And I decided to sign up only for 3 classes. First of all, a lot of them were sold out by the time I decided to go. True. So I decided to sign up for 2 classes on Thursday. It starts on Thursday, and 1 on Friday. And I wanted to leave the entire weekend, the marketplace, just free, Saturday and Sunday. So I signed up for, like I said, 2 classes on Thursday. My first class started at 9 a.m. So we both knew Pat was going to leave her home at about that time in Maryland and drive up. So I knew I was going to get to the hotel first. So she added me to the reservation. We did not assume that we would be able to check in, right? No. Or I would even be able to that early. But I took the train bright and early, packed my bags. I've actually never, I realized, taken a suitcase on the Metro North, the commuter train. I mean, people do it all the time because you can take the train to the city and then to the airports, but I've never done it. So that was strange. But anyway, the sad thing was, that wasn't that sad, but it was pouring down rain. I love walking in the city, and I love walking. I left myself time to walk from Grand Central to the Times Square area. That's where the hotel was, but it was pouring, torrential downpour, raining. So I had to take a taxi, no big deal. And I got there plenty of time. First thing I did was I went up to, because Pat, you told me that I could leave my suitcase there, right?
Yes, they said we could leave it before check-in time. They'd be able to tag it and hold it.
Yeah. So I went up to the registration desk, not thinking I would be able to check in. And I tell her, I'm checking in later. Can I leave my suitcase here? And she asked for my name. And lo and behold, the room was ready. I mean, I could not even believe it. So I got to check in. So exciting. So I went up to the room, left my stuff. Beautiful room. I mean, really lovely. Not really a view. We were on the 12th floor, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a view of New York City buildings. that was nice. And then I let Pat know what room we were in, and I went to the registration desk, got my little registration badge, and went to my class. So my first class was with, both classes on Thursday were with Aleks Byrd. And when I take classes, I like to learn things that I've never done before that I probably wouldn't pick up and do myself. So I took Baltic Braids with Aleks Byrd, and we had to start, just in case you ever go to one of these, there is homework in some classes. The first time I ever signed up for one, I didn't realize there was homework until a day before the thing, and I scrambled to try to get the homework done. But in this one, you had to cast on, you had to have 3 colors of yarn, or maybe it was 2 colors, and then cast on in the round with double pointed needles. Actually, I did not want to be I don't like traveling with double pointed needles. So I went to pick up every stitch. I can't even remember. I was going to do magic loop, which was an option. And I didn't want to do that either. And they said, just get, what are those called? Those small circumference Chow Gu set. I've never had that. And so I was like, I didn't really want to, because I've never done it. You guys know I'm a lazy knitter. I don't like to do new things. So all of this is challenging me. So I decided, okay, I'm going to invest in them and buy them, because it would be so nice to do sleeves and everything and not have to do magic loop, because I do get the laddering anyway, that's a whole nother story. Nothing to do with Vogue Knit Live. So I bought the small circumference. Thank goodness. They were heavenly. And I cast on my little beginning of a little in the round. I used Rowan felted tweed, and I just had to do, I think, a few rows of ribbing and maybe 1 knit row. I can't remember exactly. And then she taught us braiding. It was amazing. And I don't even remember what all of them were called, but we did this little tiny simple braid first. Wait, let's see, that's the seam. We did this little simple braid first, and then we did this little more complicated braid, and then this one and this one. I'm sorry, I don't remember what they're called. I don't have my notes right here. But we did all these little braids in a 3-hour class. It's amazing what you can learn in 3 hours, right?
Oh, gosh, yes.
Yeah. She was an amazing teacher. Obviously, I got a picture with her and with Flat Jonna. So, again, that'll go at the end in the slideshow. But then I loved this so much that after the class, I think maybe at lunch, I started knitting ribbing on the top of it, and then I wore it the entire weekend as a bracelet, like a wristlet. Mm-hmm. So I have this, it matches my hair. So I have this little wristlet that I wear, and it reminds me of this wonderful class with Aleks Byrd. So I highly recommend classes with Aleks Byrd. But I have to tell you about this funny thing that happened, and then I'll let Pat talk. I know, I'm monopolizing it. So I get into the class, and I'm early. I'm the kind of person, like, I'm always really early. So I sit there, maybe one other person is there. I say hi, I get pictures with Aleks, introduce myself, and I sit down, and I decided to keep up with social media for that weekend. I decided to, take some pictures and post right away. And after I finished posting, I look up and the class is full. It's about to start. And I look over to my right, and there's this young man sitting across the room. And I don't know what, I recognized him. So I kind of waved like, and then the class started. And I'm sitting there as the class is starting thinking, what if I don't know that guy? What if he thinks I'm some crazy person with blue hair, some old lady who's waving at him? And I literally, almost the whole beginning of the class was thinking, oh gosh, I totally made a fool of myself. So then there was a bathroom break, and I was behind because I couldn't figure out the second braid. And so I'm focusing, and I noticed someone standing in front of me, and I look up, and it's this young man. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. You must think I'm crazy. I thought I recognized you. Do I know you? And he said, well, we've never met in person. And I said, oh, you're Everett, right? And he could not believe that I knew who he was. He's one of our members, but he's been a fan for a really long time. I've never met him, never talked to him, but I completely knew who it was because Jonna and I have been obsessed with his knitting, right? He knits, for a while he was knitting a whole bunch of frogs, and he's just an amazing knitter. Yeah, and crochet, and he's really young, and we, because our demographic on YouTube is like, 55 and up is our major portion. So whenever we meet a young viewer, we're like, woohoo! So, and so he said he was there with his sister, who was Sadie, and she was sitting over there. And so he's like, can we get a picture later? Yes, yes, yes. Anyway, so he went back to his seat. And then after class, well, I can tell you about that. Let's hear about Pat's morning driving to the city. Go for it.
Okay. As you had already said, Kim, I was on the road. I left my house probably about 7 a.m. So about the same time you were getting on the train. And I just bought a new car this past year. And so it's so nice because messages, everything, you can just touch a button and reply and answer. I was so shocked when I got your message saying, I'm checked into our room and here's the number. I couldn't believe it. I mean, this was like 8:15, 8:30 in the morning. So that was a nice, pleasant surprise. And as Jonna said, Kim said, it was raining all the way. So it was raining all the way up, but the drive was beautiful. It was about a 4-hour drive from where I live in Maryland. And the interstate was not crowded at all. And I come into the city through the Lincoln Tunnel. And I had 1.5 miles to go after I got out of the Lincoln Tunnel.
I have a question. Have you ever driven in the city before?
Yes, I have. I was born in New York City originally.
Oh, there you go. Okay, because a lot of people are terrified of driving. Yeah.
Well, it's surprising. A lot of my friends were saying, you're going to drive in New York? Are you crazy? I said, to be honest, it's no different than driving on the Beltway around D.C. Traffic is horrendous here. But the 1.5 miles I had to go to get to the hotel took 22 minutes because it was 10:30 in the morning, traffic everywhere, messenger boys on their bikes, weaving in and out. It was incredible. And as I was driving, I had found parking about 2 blocks away from the hotel. And with a AAA discount and an AARP discount, it was really quite reasonable. The hotel parking fee is horrendous. But I thought, with the rain, I didn't relish the thought of walking 2 blocks with my suitcase. So I thought, I'm just going to pull into the hotel. And I've got my papers showing I've got a reservation. Maybe they'll let me drop my bags. And when I pulled up to the valet parking area, I just followed the signs for that. 2 gentlemen come running over. Hi, are you checking in? And I get out and say, yes, I am. But I would like to leave my bags first because I found a better parking fee elsewhere. And the one man looked at me and said, I don't blame you, lady. He was very understanding that I found a cheaper place to park. But they were so nice. He said, absolutely. And I had my piece of paper. He goes, oh, no, just give me your name. They tagged my bag and took it in. And that was wonderful. Parked my car, came back, and then I went up to registration, got the keys to the room, and got upstairs to settle. So I was settling in about 11:15, and Kim and I had decided, we would meet for lunch after her class, because my class wasn't until 2 p.m. So did you want to talk a little bit about our lunch?
Yeah. Well, what happened was then, so we're finishing up the Baltic Braids class, and at that point, I don't even know if I had for sure confirmed with you or maybe knew that you were already there and that you could meet me for lunch. So I thought I was going to eat lunch all by myself. So I'm walking out of the room with Everett and his sister, and I turn to them and I say, so what are you guys doing for lunch? And they're like, we don't know. And I said, can I invite myself along? And they're like, sure. So that's what I did. So we start walking up toward the restaurant. And I think that's when I finally realized that you were available and you said your friend Sophia was going to come. That's a whole nother it's a little funny story.
Yes.
So we're walking toward the restaurant and I noticed that Everett and his sister are kind of like whispering or something. And I say, is everything okay? And they say, well, we don't have any cash. And I said, well, do you have a card? No, we don't have a card. Our mom's in the room. And I said, your mom? You got to invite your mom to come. So mom came down. Mom joined us for lunch. So it was Everett, his sister Sadie, mom, her name is Chantal, which I had forgotten, but I messaged Everett this morning to ask. And then Pat and Sophia. And the funny thing, I'll just tell this really fast. The funny thing about Sophia is Pat had told me a couple days earlier that her friend Sophia was coming. And in the Baltic Braids class, you don't really have time to introduce yourself to the person next to you, really talk. It's so busy. And so we get to lunch and we sit down, and Sophia, who is Pat's friend, was sitting next to me in the Baltic Braids class. Yeah. So yeah, it was kind of a funny coincidence. So yeah, you can tell everybody about lunch. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no. So we had a lovely lunch, and it was wonderful meeting Everett and Sadie and their mom. And I mean, I'm just as you are so enchanted by Everett and his skills and his abilities, and such a young man. I mean, he's a high schooler, and we were so relaxed chatting with each other. And here we've got teenagers up to the 70s, sitting at a table, and we just clicked. It was like we were all old friends. It was wonderful.
It was he's a sophomore in high school. His sister is a junior, and they both started knitting in 2020 once COVID hit. He kind of caught the bug more than she did right away. That's what she said.
Right.
And now she's getting a little bit more into it. So she took the Baltic Braids class, but she also took different classes than Everett took. But it was just so lovely to talk to him. And I guess he's knitting his first garment for himself now. I think it's a slip over, like a vest. I'm pretty sure it's a vest.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And the one that Jonna knitted in the John Arbin Yarnadelic, I can't remember what it's called, but he didn't have that with him. But he mostly he knits gifts for people. He's just an amazing, generous knitter. So hi, Everett. It was so wonderful to meet you and your sister Sadie and your mom. And I'm just amazed that you're just a lovely young man. And yeah, thank you so much for having lunch with me. And us.
Oh, no, it was wonderful.
By the way, on Instagram, he's Burrito Everito, if you want to find him.
Yeah.
So we ate lunch in the hotel restaurant. That was nice. And we had Jonna with us. So we took a couple pictures with Flat
Yes,
Jonna.
we did.
And then why don't you tell us about your class? You had a class that afternoon.
Right. So I had a class, and I have to apologize. I cannot find my 2 swatches or what I did for the first 2 classes. I've been running around this morning because I was out of town this weekend. And when Kim messaged me to ask if I would do this with her, I said, sure, but I wasn't coming back till Monday afternoon. So I don't know where they ended up. They're somewhere. But the first class I took, and I don't know if this is going to come across backwards, but it was with Patty Lyons. And for 2 reasons I signed up for this class. First, I absolutely adore Patty Lyons. And if you listen to her at all on Instagram, she does YouTubes every once in a while. She is such an excellent teacher, instructor, and creative. She's got a wonderful book out, Tips and Tricks, if you haven't seen that. She has wonderful ways of doing stitches, especially her slip knit, that really makes it look neat and tidy and just very creative. That makes things look really good. And she did a class on what she called helix knitting or helical knitting, so that it makes color changes look like they don't have that jog, so that they look much smoother together. And as Kim had said, we had homework to do. We had to do 2 cuffs of about 40 stitches each in the round. And I do have that small Chow set, so I like knitting in the round too without double pointed needles, just not my favorite. And it was amazing. There were 3 different ways she showed us to do it, and just incredible. But I found that 2 of these ideas are in her tips and tricks book. So again, if you don't have that, you might want to look it up, or just Google her on YouTube. Look for her there. She has so many of her different methods that she shows in quick little videos that are just so easy to learn. But she has an excellent dry wit as well. She is so funny, and people will ask questions, and she'll say, now, why did you ask that question? And it might take the person aback a bit. And then she say, and I'm glad you did, because the 20 other people are all asking the same thing, and you had the courage to ask. She is wonderful, humorous, colorful, and just so creative. It's a wonderful class if you get the chance to ever take one by her. And she has been at every single Vogue Knitting Live in New York since it started. Wow. I think there's been 11 or 12. So she will always be there, and her classes always sell out.
Yeah. I mean, I would have loved to take her class. I did get that book. One of the women who works at Pick Up Every Stitch loaned me hers, and I took it on vacation and read it while I was floating on an air mattress in the lake and got it wet. So I bought her a new one, but I read it cover to cover. But the difference between reading it is I don't remember. I know there's skill. When I'm knitting now, I know, wait, Patty Lyons has a trick for this. And I don't even know where my book is. I might have loaned it to Jonna. And so I don't, I think taking it in person and actually physically doing it is so much a better way to learn. By the way, I have also taken, during COVID, they kept VogueNet Live going by doing online VogueNet Live. And there is one coming up in March. And before COVID, I took one class in 2020 with Jonna and didn't take any other classes because I was going away for the weekend. She did the whole weekend. And then in the middle of COVID, when they started these online classes, and right now the teachers say they're glad it happened because it added the technique of having the camera over their hands, which they would have never done if COVID hadn't happened and they had to teach purely online. I know Aleks Byrd said that having to do that added another skill set and another way of showing how to do the skills in the live classes. So now they all have these setups like they were doing an online class where you have a camera over their hands and then it's displayed up on the screen, which is so helpful. But I just want to say, if you can't get to New York City and do VogueNet Live, do some classes on the online version because it's amazing. And I did one whole weekend in the middle of COVID when they first started it up and did class. That's the one I didn't know there was homework. So I was doing homework for one class while I was taking another class but I learned so much in those. That's the first time I ever took a class with Kim McBrien Evans, and I've talked about her all the time, Indigo Dragonfly. She was at this VogueNet Live, and now she's on the accessibility, I think it's the accessibility panel, talking about so many different things about, pattern inclusivity and even just the event. By the way, we'll talk about this later, but in case I forget, they made the marketplace much more accessible. They widened the walkways so much more and tried to make the booths bigger. Everybody was really conscious of accessibility. It was amazing. But Kim McBrien Evans is amazing. If you can ever take a class about like customizing patterns to fit your specific body, it's amazing. But I took my first few classes with her on an online version of VogueNet Live. So I highly recommend. And then maybe I can take a Patty Lyons class, if I do that in March, if she does the online version. But I would love to take a class with her. So
she's wonderful.
Yeah. So my afternoon class was again with Aleks Byrd, and I learned Estonian fringe. I'm not going to talk a lot about it. We did get an email shortly before the class, maybe a week before, saying that we need a tool to use for the class. And she has some that I think Katrinkle's, I don't know who made them for her, but she had these tools made. So you could order them from her website. But she also said she has some there you can just borrow for the class. But I figured I'm just going to buy some. And so I bought these tools. And I realized then that they're for measuring, like if you want shorter fringe, medium fringe, and long fringe. And that's how you create your fringe and make sure they're really even. But so here is my swatch. I had to start just by casting on and doing a little garter stitch and then maybe a row or two of the main color. And then we learned one color fringe, 2 color fringe. I did an extra row of 1 color fringe. So these you're doing while you're knitting. And then the third one is applied fringe. So after we were finished, then she taught us how to just apply it to knitwear and to already finished, garments. So that was really fun. And I was so proud of my swatch that you get the ID badge, and it has the 2 black straps and 2 clips, and then the plastic covered badge. And I clipped it on there, and I wore it like for the rest of the day with my little thing over my name because I was so proud of my beautiful swatch. Again, it's Rowan felted tweed, so I just love it. And if you notice now, I have my swatches displayed on this bulletin board behind me in my room. This is my room actually, and I had these hanging. I added these after the class because I'm so proud of them. But it was great. Again, thank you, Aleks, for your amazing classes. And I would definitely highly recommend. Now, actually, I have yarn for a Marie Wallen, and I started thinking, can I add some braids? Not that her garments are perfect. Can I add some braids and fringe to my Marie Wallen? Anyway, we'll see.
Maybe around the cuffs or the neckline. Yeah.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
I totally could. So let's see. That was Thursday. Mm-hmm. And then we did not have dinner that night. You had plans, right?
Right, right. Because that evening, as Kim had mentioned earlier, I was treating myself this year and I bought one of the big packages. There's a huge package that's called, I think, the Big City package. And then there's the Big Apple package, which is what I got, which gave me 4 classes, 3 lectures, and a cocktail reception on Friday and a big dinner on Saturday evening where they have a keynote speaker. And this year it was Aimée Gille from La Aimée. But on Thursday, you have the option of purchasing a ticket for a Broadway show. And I love going to the Broadway theater, but it's also fun going with other people. So I signed up for it because it was the musical Harmony with the music written by Barry Manilow. And I love Barry Manilow. I got to see him perform in the 70s and I just love his music. So I signed up for that and the show was at 7. So I had just grabbed a little snack to eat and I went off to the theater at 7 o'clock and the show was wonderful. And there was probably, I say, over 100 people from the Vogue Knitting Live that went. We all had a special section in the center orchestra area, which was very nice seats. And it was an amazing show, very enjoyable, and the music was wonderful too. And so when I got back, it was about 10:30, and it was wonderful too because when we came back, it was only 2 blocks from the hotel, but you get to walk right through Times Square. And Times Square at 10 o'clock at night is going crazy, bursting with people and entertainers and people doing different acrobatic tricks and musics. And so I stood there for about 15-20 minutes just watching and then went back because I knew I had a busy day the next day and went back to the hotel, quietly got into bed and went to sleep because Kim was already asleep when I got back.
Right. So because Pat was busy, I didn't invite myself to anyone's, dinner plans. And I actually went to the restaurant by myself. And then I thought, I was texting my husband and he had just gone to our favorite local restaurant and picked up food for himself. So I propped my phone up against the candle on the table and I ate with my husband via FaceTime. So that was fun. And then we talked via FaceTime all the way back to the room. And then we were still talking as I got into bed. And at one point then I'm in bed, right? And I hear, Kim, are you awake? It was 8:30 at night and I had fallen asleep on my husband on FaceTime. So yeah, I was exhausted. So I was like, oh, sorry, honey. I didn't mean to do that. But honestly, it happens here at home too. I'm the first one in bed and I just fall asleep. Especially because I had given up caffeine. That's a whole other story. But now that I have given up caffeine, my body naturally falls asleep. So I was asleep by 8:30. And I think I told you ahead of time that I am a deep sleeper. So you don't have to be ultra, ultra quiet. And Pat told me she was an early riser. And so Friday morning, neither of us had a class early in the morning on Friday, right?
Right.
So we knew it was going to be a slower morning. But I was just like, you get up, turn the light on. It's fine, So I had an early night on Thursday. Thank goodness.
No, that worked out good for both of us.
Yeah. So Friday morning, like I said, we had kind of I would say lazy morning, right?
Yes.
And I had been texting Diana, another member of our channel, another Cable 3. She lives in California and she was coming. Was it her first Vogue Knit Live?
I believe it was. Yes.
Yeah. And so she had arrived late Thursday night and she was staying in a different hotel, but we had arranged to have lunch, right? You, me, and Diana. Right. And Sophia, and we didn't have a class in the morning, and I don't think she had a class in the morning. So she came over. I didn't see her. She checked in and registered and everything, and then we met for lunch, and that was so nice to see Diana. We'll include a picture at the end with Diana.
Oh yeah.
And again, it felt like we already knew her, right?
Oh, it did. She was so easygoing, and she's so cute, petite, wonderful, vivacious personality, just so bubbly.
Yeah. I feel like if she lived near here or I lived near there, all of us would be besties, and we would all be hanging out all the time. So we had lunch and then Sophia joined us. And by the way, I want to mention this. Pat got lots of swag bags. Almost every single event she went to, she got a swag bag. And she would come back to the room and pull out all these amazing things. And at one point she said, by the way, because Sophia had a package too. She said,
Yes.
Sophia, there's something in her swag bag she doesn't really want. Do you want it? And I was like, sure. So she gave me this beautiful Knitting the Neighborhood, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood knitting patterns. And I was telling my husband, I still haven't knit my husband a sweater, but maybe I'll knit him a Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood cardigan.
I know there's about 10 sweaters in there, and they were all sweaters he wore on his show, and his mother knit every one of them.
It's amazing. And then there's even like a mini Mr. Rogers doll.
Yep.
There's knitted versions of all the little characters in the show. There's a blanket. There's a whole bunch of fun things. So thank you so much,
trolley.
Sophia. Yeah, the trolley.
Even the trolley.
Thank you, Sophia, for this book. It's I wonder who publishes it. I don't even know.
I'm not sure.
On here. But anyway, I love the book. I haven't really read. I've paged through it. I haven't really read through it yet, but it's a lovely book. So that was fun that I wonder what the connection was that they gave that book in the swag bag. Do you know?
I wasn't sure either, because that was in the registration for the 2 big packages. That book was given out. And I really did not know what the exact connection was, except I guess maybe it was something that had just come out fairly recently and they thought it might be of interest, because there are a lot of little characters and toys you can make from it, which is something a lot of people like to do.
Right. So then we each went to our different classes.
Right.
My next class was Brioche Pastiche with Michele Lee Bernstein, or I think it's Bernstein. And on Instagram, she's PDX Knitterati. PDX is the airport code for Portland, Oregon. And I don't even remember if I told her, but I was born in Portland and raised in a suburb of Portland. And so, Vancouver, Washington, which is kind of a suburb of Portland. So I know the airport code. So she's PDX Knitterati. And she did this class. I've always been interested in brioche, but had never learned it. And by the time I registered, a lot of the beginner classes were full. But I did notice this one didn't have any, because in the listing for the class, it'll say homework and prerequisites, right? And there was no prerequisite. You had to know how to cast on, do a knit stitch. So I took the class, and one thing I really loved about this class was your homework was to cast on. She supplied 2 patterns. They're called Brioche Pastiche. And from this one pattern, actually, you can make a hat or a cowl. Right. And so I wanted to make the hat. And so you cast on the number of stitches you need for the hat you're going to make. And then you're basically starting an object. So it's not just a swatch that you're going to hang on a wall later or throw in a closet. You have something afterward if you finish the object. So you had to, I think just cast on and maybe knit 1 row. I can't even remember. And so I did that. And in 3 hours, I learned how to brioche. And we did brioche. We did 2 color right away. So I thought, that's a little advanced, isn't it? 2 color brioche. But they say, and Jonna told me afterward when I told her about it, that it's actually easier to learn brioche with 2 colors, because then you can see which, which is the collar and which is this. Yeah. So we did 2 color brioche rib for a few rows. And then she taught us increases and decreases, and in the pattern there are increases and decreases. And not sadly, I finished the hat and gave it to my daughter, so I don't have it here. Actually, she's visiting it right now. It might be upstairs.
Well, you've got beautiful pictures though on Instagram.
I do. So I'll put the pictures at the end.
Yeah.
But I just use all this. I use stash yarn. I think I used Blue Sky Fibers. What's it called? Woolstock worsted. It was a worsted hat, which I was so happy because it was finished more quickly also.
I know.
But I got a whole full set of the pattern repeat done by the time we left the class. And then when I got home, I just kept knitting it, and I finished it in a day or so. And it's really beautiful.
You are amazing. You are amazing. I couldn't believe you finished it. And there's decreases and design. I mean, it was incredible.
Yeah, the crown is beautiful. The crown decreases are gorgeous. And I actually made mine longer. So I added the pattern repeat is 24 rows or 28 rows. And I did an extra 24 rows to make mine longer, which I'm really happy I did. And then so my decreases look a little bit different with the way they start, but I figured it would still work, and it's just
Oh,
gorgeous.
yes.
And I added a little pom-pom because my daughter wanted a pom-pom. So yeah, it's a beautiful hat. And the class was wonderful. We really did learn, and hands-on. Michele goes around to every single person with every new thing she teaches and comes and makes sure you're doing it correctly. So it was really lovely. Thank you, Michele, for that wonderful, wonderful class. I, again, highly recommend it, even for a very beginner, never done brioche knitter. So yeah, it was fun.
No, she had to be a great teacher. I mean, obviously you took the information and you were able to do it, but it was just wonderful what you were able to accomplish from one 3-hour class.
I know, it's amazing. So what class did you take that afternoon?
So that afternoon, I took Vogue knitting short rows. And mainly, I was looking for a class. Excuse me just a minute. I got to reach for something.
That's fine.
I was looking for a class with Gudrun Johnston, who lives up in Maine, but she is originally from Shetland. And she also has a wonderful book that she authored with Mary Jane Mucklestone. So if any of you are interested in Shetland type true patterns and such, incredible what she can do. This one I did have my swatches that I worked. I do short rows, but I've never really liked the way they look. I can do them. I've done YouTube videos to watch, but I always seem to, myself personally, I can see it. I don't like it. So she taught us 3 ways of doing short rows. And I was so pleased with how good they came out. The first one on top is the wrap and turn, which is the one that I always felt was the messiest. The middle one, this purple color, almost looks blue though on the screen, is Japanese short rows. And then the bottom one is the German short row, the double stitch one. And to be honest, I thought they all came out good. And mainly she just had some little tips and tricks on how to tighten it, where to pull, where not to pull. And I was really pleased with how they all came out. It was, again, so much information being shared over 3 hours. And she, just like Michele, would go around to everybody in the class, make sure you were comfortable with it, help take it back and let you start again if you were having difficulty. Excellent. So calming, beautiful voice for teaching. It was just wonderful. So I really would look forward. She has classes she does on stranded knitting and fair isle knitting. So I really hope I might be able to take a class from her again in the future. But
what was her name again?
Very good. Gudrun Johnston.
Oh, Gudrun Johnston. Of course, she's so
yes,
famous.
Yes. So and the book is, I can't say enough about it. There is a vest in there that reminds me of a Marie Wallen style, but it's a true Shetland vest, and that is on my list of trying to learn how to do. So I'm hoping I'll be able to start tackling that maybe later this year.
Yeah, so fun. And it's just fun because you get to meet all these people that you would never ever, you could travel your whole life and never be able to meet all these amazing, knitting celebrities, and not just celebrities, like artists, true artists, designers, just experts, truly experts in their field of knitting. So it's just really fun. So what did you do after that? I can't remember because we had scheduled to have a late dinner because you had something else.
Right.
So go ahead and tell us what you did.
Yes. So that was the class was Friday afternoon from 2 until 5. And on Friday evenings at 5 p.m., the marketplace does open. But it opens, my understanding, I think, it only opens to people that have been registered for classes. You can get in early. But then I did see other people, so maybe they had modified it, that anybody could get in that was there and had registered just for the marketplace, I guess.
Oh, and also, that's another thing. I don't know if it happened Friday night, but I do know Saturday and Sunday that there was an extra hour early. That marketplace opened at 10.
Yes.
But for people with accessibility issues, no matter what they were, whether it's crowds or noise or, having a wheelchair, you could go from 9 to 10. Those people could go. And I just thought that was amazing. So, I think you could add the marketplace onto your registration. That's what I did. So I added a 3-day marketplace onto my registration.
Okay.
Your package just came with it, I'm sure. So
it did.
You didn't have to worry about it. But you definitely, on your tag, it said marketplace, plus marketplace. So you had to have registered for it.
Right.
So did you go to the marketplace before your cocktail
I
party?
did. I just did a quick walkthrough on both floors because the cocktail reception was from 7 to 9. And what Kim and I decided, I figured, probably I'll have a glass of wine or something, maybe some little nibbles, peanuts, crackers, cheese, that we would have a late dinner. So we made a reservation for 8:30 that evening. And I said, I'll just plan to leave at about 8:15, 8:20 and meet you. And I did go through the marketplace, just walk through, just kind of eyeballing, seeing what's there. Everybody had things set up so beautifully. And as Kim said, incredible space. The aisles were bigger, roomier, not jam-packed. You didn't have difficulty walking through. And it wasn't too crowded, of course, on Friday, but still it was quite noticeable how much easier it was going to be for people to get through. And then I went to the reception. Do you want to talk about the marketplace first for you on Friday evening, Kim? Did you go for a little bit?
I did. Yeah. So I decided to pop in there and just like Pat did, walk through and just get the lay of the land. I had not planned on purchasing anything. As you can see, people always ask, what happened to that whole list of sweaters that you are going to knit? They're back there. Each compartment is one of them. The one right there is the Soldatna. That's the next one on the list. I have swatched for it. The swatch is
Right
there.
up there.
And the next one is Samling by Sari Nordland in Woolfolk yarn. And I did swatch for that. And the swatch is up there somewhere. And then down here is, it's called the Coffee Bean Cardigan by Elizabeth Smith Knits. And I did swatch for that as well. That's the striped swatch right there. Because I couldn't decide what to knit next. But anyway, as you can see, and then so they go clockwise, starting with the top one, all the sweaters. And I don't even think these are included. So it's these 3 cubbies. Anyway, so I don't need to buy yarn right now. And I also just love to buy yarn and pick up every stitch. And I get really overwhelmed. One thing I realized when I was walking through this time, I think the reason I'm a project knitter has less to do, it has to do with me being focused on one thing, but I don't like shopping. I don't like wandering, even clothes shopping. My husband knows this. He has to force me to go buy clothes. I just don't like it. And so even wandering through a marketplace or Rhinebeck, I don't have an agenda. I don't really love it. And I get overwhelmed. I don't, it's just overwhelming to me. So when we're at Rhinebeck, I'm usually behind Jonna. I just follow her. And I say, I'll just stop when she stops. If there is something I want to stop for, I'll just stop. But I don't really love it. So I just kind of follow Jonna around because she loves to browse. So I just wandered around and I went to it was 2 floors. It was big. It was on the 5th and the 6th floor. Is that right?
Yes.
And on the 6th floor, there's a 7th floor balcony around it where people can sit. And that's where the fashion shows were, at the front of the 6th floor marketplace. So there's fashion shows and presentations going on all day long. And so people can sit around in these balcony seats and kind of watch. And they also had a little cafe up there at certain hours where you could get a cup of coffee or a bagel or something. But I walked around the 2 floors, and again, I didn't really want to buy anything. And I did see this fun little stand. Honestly, it didn't have that much decoration in it, but they just had this interesting, I'm going to call it yarn, but it's 100% nylon, and it's a chainette. It's a 100% nylon chainette. And it's really kind of drapey, the yarn in and of itself. And they had all these bright colors, and they were packaged in little bullet skeins in little clear plastic bags and tied almost like a piece of candy. It looked like these bright colors, and it looked wrapped like a little piece of candy in a plastic wrapper. And all the samples there were crochet. There were crochet bags, like a bag to put your water bottle in with a strap, and purses and totes, and most of them were those kind of things. And I asked them, do you have any knit samples? Because I just looked at this and I thought, what a fun thing to knit with, make a little bag for my granddaughter. She loves pink, indestructible, basically. And so they said, no, we don't have any samples in knit. So I bought a little, the woman who owns the booth it's called AO Knit, A-I-O. Let me check. Yeah, AO Knit, A-I-O Knit. And the yarn is called Jelly Pop. That's what they named it. It's new, I guess. And the owner is Jen Parker. Hi, Jen. So I bought one bullet skein, went around the corner because I asked what size did they crochet on. And so I found the comparable knitting needle size, and I went up one because I'm a tight knitter. And so I got it around the corner. I stopped in a booth. I don't even know what booth it was. Was it actually a Clover booth? I don't know. But I bought this Clover circular US 10 needle, and I cast on in the marketplace. I literally opened the little bag, pulled out the center, cast on, and decided I'm going to knit them a swatch so they can have it in their booth for the weekend. This was Friday night, so they had 2 whole days coming up. I'm just going to knit a quick little swatch with this stuff and take it back tomorrow and leave it there in the morning, right? So I did. I started knitting the swatch. I don't have this here either, but I decided to, so it would lay flat and look nice. I did a few rows of garter stitch, and then I did stockinette. And then I started going. I'm like, you know what? This would make a cute little bag for my granddaughter. So I kept going and going that night. And then in the morning, I finished. Pat was already leaving, and I'm still in bed, and I'm finishing. And then I do the garter matching on the other side, and then I matcher stitched it up the sides. And I did finish it like by 10 a.m., I think. And I took it back there the next day, and they had these, well, I could talk about this on Saturday, but I'll just do it now. They had these gold chains. They look like, I can't remember, was it Chanel or somebody had these bags with gold chains, and then you could string a piece of this in the chain and then clip it. And so I clipped it to the bag. It's the cutest little bag. I have pictures of my granddaughter with her bag. I gave it to her last weekend. Her birthday just passed, and she loves it. And so, yeah. And so Jen was so surprised that I brought this finished bag back, and then I left it in the booth. And it was nice because then they had a knit sample for people to look at. It was really funny. It was I think that was probably one of my favorite things besides hanging out with Pat and Diana.
Oh, no.
That was really fun. So I did that. I was walking around knitting that, and that was kind of, I didn't think about it beforehand. That was advertising. People would say, what the heck are you knitting? What is that you're knitting with? So I hope they got more business from that. But I just did one round, and then I can't even remember what I did. I waited for Pat to be finished, and then we met for dinner. Did you want to tell about the amazing, like, Pat didn't eat when I ate?
No, because, well, the cocktail reception, and that was sponsored by a company that was a big sponsor of the Vogue Knitting Live. And it's called Gosadi, Gosadi. And what they are is they're actually a knitting program for designers, for people to assist them in how they can create on a computer different designs. They're also planning for it to evolve into being something similar to other programs that exist out there, where knitters then can utilize it to put their patterns on it and use it to follow along instead of paper and pencil. But they were a big sponsor, and they were the ones sponsoring this cocktail reception. And I went in with no idea what to expect, and went in and again found a table, sat down. And it was so interesting. 2 different times, at the cocktail reception and then at the dinner, I sat down, and one next to me is a person from Washington, D.C. So I've now made 2 more knitting friends who live, one literally just 4 miles from me and the other one about 8 miles. But we were chatting and taking up a conversation, and we got another goodie bag. I mean, towards the end, I'll show some of the stash that I got, but in the goodie bag, again, we had yarn, and we had a bingo card. So they played bingo all through this wonderful cocktail reception, which had champagne, wine, beer, mixed drinks, open bar. You go up and get what you want. And then I walked around. They had a taco bar, a pasta bar, and then a table with cheese and crackers and fruits. I had a full meal. I did not expect that. So when I did go to meet with Kim for dinner, I said, I'm just going to get a little dessert. So I didn't eat any of the desserts they had there. They had little Neapolitans, and it was just incredible, the amount of food. And so now I know if I get to do a big package again, I'm going to have my dinner at this event. But it was lovely, so much fun, lots of prizes being given out. I didn't win anything that night, but I did win something at the big dinner the next night, which I'll show you later. But it was a lovely event. And then at 8:30, I went and met with Kim, and she had a lovely dinner, and I sat with her, kept company, talked about the reception, and had a little bit of ice cream for dessert.
Yeah. Then we went back to our room and went to bed. That was fun. It was a really fun day.
Yes, it was.
And then, yeah, so that was Friday. So then Saturday, I can't remember. Did you have classes on Saturday?
I had a lecture in the morning because I did go to 3 lectures as well. And then I had a class at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And the lecture I went to was a lecture with Gudrun Johnston and Mary Jane Mucklestone, talking about how they put their book together of the Grand Shetland Adventure Knits. And it was lovely because there's beautiful pictures in this book, but they had a slideshow of the pictures they took, slides of all the knitwear designs that are in there. There's mittens, gloves, vests, scarves, hats. Beautiful book. And it was just lovely listening to the two of them. And that's what I did. And then I met up with Sophia, and we had a little light lunch on the 7th floor balcony to watch some of the fashion shows while we ate.
Yeah, that's really fun. So I had planned, because Pat was so busy and Jonna wasn't there. I have a dear friend who lives in Hoboken, Beth, and I've talked about her before. She's a very, very, very beginner knitter. At one point, she lives too far away for me to help her with mistakes like in the moment. So at one birthday a couple years ago, I bought her a gift certificate for Yarnia, which is her closest knitting shop from where she lives. And so she did take lessons with them. So now she has a local yarn shop that she can go to when she needs help. But I asked her if she wanted to come and meet me for lunch. And I thought maybe to inspire her to just keep going with her knitting, I bought her a marketplace ticket. And it was her birthday too, right? So I said, come to the city, let's have lunch, and let's go to the marketplace. It's really fun. So unfortunately, she had rescued a dog a few years ago, and he was an old dog, and he was had a lot of health issues, and he wasn't doing well the day before. Well, the week before, she had him in the hospital. He came home Friday. So when she still wanted to come Saturday, but she had a neighbor watching him. So she comes to the city, and we sit down. We're going to eat lunch first. We sit down to eat lunch, and we order, and we're waiting for our food. And she gets a call from her neighbor that she has to go home immediately. So it was hard. I mean, if anybody saw me that day, I mean, my friend, she was just in tears. She loves this dog. She was in tears she was so happy to see me and happy to be there, but she raced home. She actually packed her salad up. We hadn't even eaten. She packed her salad up and left. So I sat there and ate. And then I did go back up on the balcony and just hang out there a little bit. I wasn't feeling great. You don't need to know this, but I have chronic digestive issues. Okay. Nothing contagious, nothing, but, I don't know. I think, and stress affects it. So I think my friend going through this hard time, I just didn't feel great. So I went and sat up on the balcony for a little while. And then for the rest of the afternoon, I ended up going back to the room and just rested, because I was also just texting her, and how's your dog? How's your dog? Sadly, he ended up passing away that night, overnight. But she asked if I could exchange her Saturday marketplace ticket for Sunday. And I went to the booth, and they immediately, like, no questions asked, they said, absolutely. So that was my afternoon while you were having your classes. So let's hear about your.
So this was the second class, my third class, but it's the other one I can't find my little sample. I took a class with Aleks Byrd as well. And by the way, I can't remember if you mentioned or not, Kim, but Aleks lives in England. And she is originally, I found out when I met her at class, from Maryland. And when I told her where I live, she said, oh my gosh, I'm from Bethesda. So right next door, and her parents still live there. So we exchanged information, because she said, when I come to visit next time, she'll be coming for the Maryland Sheep and Wool the beginning of May. She wants to get together. So it was lovely getting to meet her and getting to know her. But I took a class. But she also has
family roots in Estonia, right? And that's why she teaches a lot of Estonian and Baltic. Yes.
And she actually has dual citizenship. Because her mother, I believe, was born there. She has Estonia citizenship and the United States. So she's a dual citizen. Mm-hmm. And that's what has attracted her to all of this type of knitting. But I took Steeks in style. I have never cut knitting before, and I've always wanted to learn. And as I mentioned, I have a goal of completing this beautiful Shetland vest that Gudrun Johnston has designed, but it's steeking. You would steek for the V, and you would steek for the two arm openings for the vest. And I'm like, that does not sound like it would be very easy. But we made, again, a small circular cuff with a Fair Isle design, very easy, just 2 colors. And she showed us how to do the middle steeking area, and we cut our stitches. And she taught us how to do the crocheting to tack it down. And she did go over the different ways you could do it. You can stitch with a sewing machine to secure it. You can do the crocheting to secure it. But what you also could do is needle felting with a fine needle. And again, it does have to be a non-superwash wool to do this. And you just go up and down several times, or as many times you need to felt it with just adding a little bit of water. But it was so interesting. And my friend Sophia took this class with me, and we both had never done it before. And we were both so excited when we cut and everything stayed in place and it didn't fall apart. It was so exciting. So now I have a little more motivation to try this vest and to do the steeking with it. But Aleks was a joy. She was such a good teacher.
Yeah. Steeking is magical, and it's just, I love it. It makes obviously doing stranded color work so much easier if you don't have to purl it.
Oh, yes.
But that sounds like so much fun. So then after that, what did you do after your class? Because that's
after that, I
in the room.
Right. I went through the market, and I did do a little bit of purchasing, which I'll share towards the end. We'll show all of the goodies that we ended up with. But you had sent me a message that you weren't feeling too good. So I went back up to the room first because I wanted to check to see if there was anything you needed. And I went and got your big bottle of water because you were running out of your water that you enjoyed. But and you had said, you're not sure if you're going to be able to get up and about, because that evening I had the banquet to go to, and you, I think, were originally planning to spend more time with your friend, but she had to leave. So
right.
I just
I was going to have dinner. I was going to have dinner with Diana actually that night. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
yes,
yeah, we can talk about that
and
later.
You did.
Go ahead.
Thankfully, you did feel better. But then I ended up getting dressed, changed a little bit to go to this banquet, and it was huge. I bet there were over 300 people at this banquet. The tables were 8 to a table, round. The only criticism I have for, honestly, the cocktail reception as well as this, we were in so tight that the waiters coming around and the waitresses serving, it was very difficult for them. And we had to all kind of scoot in and be careful. I mean, there was no spills, no disasters, but it almost seemed like we probably should have had a larger room because it was really quite tight. But the food, as I'd mentioned at the cocktail reception, was incredible, very good. And here you're going to serve dinner for over 300 people. The food was incredible. Everybody's food was hot. The salads were crisp, cool. They were already at the table when we went in. But we had chicken with a beautiful risotto and some asparagus. Everything, everyone at my table were remarking on the flavor, the taste. And if people have special dietary needs, we did have one lady at our table that got a vegan dish. They had all of that ready to bring out. It just, as they went around, the waiters assigned to your tables would ask anyone with special needs, and then they made sure they brought that meal to them. There were 2 bottles of white and 2 bottles of red wine on every table. And you couldn't have asked for a nicer meal. Delicious, flavorful, quick, good service. You didn't have to sit around waiting. It went so well. And then Aimée Gille got up and gave a talk. She talked about her knitting history, what got her into the industry, how she ended up in France. Lovely speech. And from what I understand, she is planning, it was videoed, and she's planning to release it on her YouTube channel. So if you're interested, take a look at that. Lovely lady. It got a little bit emotional for her because her mother died, unfortunately, when she was, I think, only in her late 20s, which was unexpected, but the impact that had on her. And then how she started her business, started her store, had to close the store because of the impact of COVID, but yet how successful she's been, and just a wonderfully inspiring story. Very, very good. But we also got another goodie bag there too. And so I'm going to have three goodie bags. One when I checked in, one at the cocktail reception, and one at the dinner banquet. And so to be honest, I think I got several $100s worth of items as giveaways, so to speak, which made the ticket even more worthwhile to me.
Right. It sounded like you felt like it was really,
Oh, yes.
everything you went to was way better than you expected. And so well organized, and the communication was amazing. I feel like you felt like, because those packages aren't cheap, right?
Oh,
and
no.
Great. They do include the classes and the marketplace, because that can even get
Right.
pricey just taking a bunch of classes and the marketplace.
Oh, sure. Single.
But yeah, so yeah, I'm definitely tempted in the future now to at least once do a package. Yeah.
Yes.
So I really wasn't feeling great, and I thought, well, I'm the kind of person that I can't sleep if I'm hungry. So I thought, you know what, I'll just go meet Diana. We were going to meet in her hotel restaurant. And so literally like a half hour before, I said, okay, I'm coming. So I just got dressed in like my most stretchy, relaxed, almost like I could wear these pants to bed, these they're not pajama pants, but they could be. Just typical New Yorker, all in black. And except my big, beautiful Soho Square.
Oh, yes.
Which I wore the first day. I wore my Soho Square and the, is that right? I think so.
You did. Yeah, you had it on the first day.
And the second day I wore my champagne cardigan with a beautiful blouse that Karen and Felicia had got me. And then the third day I wore my light sweater by Georgia Farrell in Rowan felted tweed. Loved it. But anyway, I was going to wear this. I ended up not wearing this. This is my Solar by Joji Locatelli. But I had a sweater to wear on Sunday, but I knew I was going to go on the train and go home. And I just honestly didn't feel like wearing a beautiful sweater on the train. I just wanted to be comfy cozy again. So I didn't, I don't even know what I wore, but anyway,
well, you wore that beautiful, blouse and skirt.
Oh, that's when I wore the blouse.
Outfit.
Right. That's right. On Friday, I wore this fun skirt and blouse that I had purchased in Nova Scotia with my champagne cardigan. So, I went down and met her, and we had a lovely dinner. She stayed at the Edison. Is that what it was called? And there's a wonderful Italian restaurant on the main and down in the basement. We sat at the bar. We had amazing food. And then Diana's very athletic. She used to be like an ultra runner or ultra marathon runner of some, I can't remember what she called it. Like in the mountains, like running for 48 hours or something like that.
Oh.
She had recently had surgery, so she can't do that physical of activity yet. But she's like, can we go for a walk? And actually for, digestive issues, it's good for you to go for a walk. So we walked to Times Square, and I have not been to Times Square since it's basically been taken over by, Disney. And just when we moved to New York City in the 80s, it was like you would not want to be there after, dark.
No.
I've been there during the day, but I haven't been there at night. And it was like it was a party going on. And this was late because we had dinner on the later side, I think. And it was like a party was going on. It was fun. We took a picture together, and then she said, can we walk some more? Because it wasn't far to get to Times Square. I said, sure. Is there anything you haven't seen? She had walked around a bit. She had walked up to Central Park one of the days. And I said, well, have you seen Rockefeller Center? She said, no. She actually had gone looking for it, but couldn't find it. So I said, okay. So we walked over to Fifth Avenue. We walked up Fifth Avenue, and I'm like pointing out, well, there's St. Patrick's Cathedral. And so we get to Rockefeller Center, and we walk around the ice rink. And then I said, and up there is Top of the Rock. She said, oh, is that like a viewing? I said, yeah, the viewing thing. She said, can you think we can go? I don't know. So we go around, and sure enough, it's open. So we bought tickets. We went up to the Top of the Rock. And in the middle of this rainy weekend, it was crystal clear. It was so beautiful, Top of the Rock. And there's a few different levels. If you ever go there, don't just be satisfied with that first level. You have to find the other 2 staircases to go up, I think 2 more levels. Because the top level, there's no plexiglass. And the reason why is because it's overlooking the other lower levels. So if you jumped or fell, you would only go
you wouldn't go too far.
To the next. Right. But it was beautiful. And here, this New Yorker doesn't do these touristy things. I loved every second of it. And so then we went back down, and then we decided to walk over to Broadway. Well, no, first I walked up the rest of Fifth Avenue to see all the stores and where the plaza is and everything. And then we walked across 57th, and then we walked down Broadway and came back to our hotel. But it was so lovely hanging out with Diana. And again, I just feel like we could totally be besties. I mean, we are besties, and we just don't live in the same city, just like Pat and so many other people now, because we do this podcast. I get to meet all these fun people. So I had a lovely time, and yeah, it was a great day.
It was good. And I was so glad you were feeling better.
Yeah, definitely. So then Sunday, if my friend wasn't going to be able to make it, I was tempted to just kind of pack up my stuff and go home. But I got up early, packed up my stuff. My friend was going to come, my friend Beth. And so, you know, I was going to run down. There's a Starbucks in the lower lobby. One day you got me a Starbucks. That was so sweet, right? In the morning you went down and...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had gotten up earlier. Well, I wake up early, and I'm a retired nurse, so I'm very used to getting up at 4:35 in the morning. And as a result, I just don't sleep in that late. But I brought you up a coffee.
That was so nice. But so Sunday I went down and got myself, I told Beth, I'll meet you like by the Starbucks. And she said, you want me to bring you a bagel from Jersey? And I'm like, well, first I said no. And I thought, you know what? I haven't had a good bagel with cream cheese in a really long time. So she brought me a bagel with cream cheese, and we went up and sat in one of the lobbies and had coffee and our bagels. And then we went into the marketplace, and she definitely was inspired. She purchased, I wasn't going to buy anything, but I ended up buying a kit, which they didn't have there. They ship it to you, and I still don't even have it. I'll tell you about that in a second. But it was fun. I got to walk around the marketplace, and let me look at my notes. Oh, one of the first things I walked in. Well, of course, I went to the Mayak booth. Every time I went in, the very first thing I did was go to the Mayak booth because I just love Paula. And met so many fun people. But I went to the U-Knit booth. It's in Toronto. And Claudia Quintanilla is the owner, and she's a designer. And so I got to meet her. She was there. And I also met Sandy, and I didn't know who Sandy was, but she was helping in the booth, and she introduced herself, and she's the either North America or something representative of Ito yarns. And so I got to talk to her, and we're going to try to figure out a way. Pick Up Every Stitch carries Ito yarns, and I want to use them, but it's hard. It's been harder for me to find patterns that are exclusively like a pattern for Keynote and Sensei, right? I've used a lot of Sensei, they're mohair, but I used Keynote in one project, but I don't know. I just, I had been looking, but I hadn't really found anything. So Sandy and I exchanged information. I got a picture with Sandy. I didn't get a picture with Claudia. I don't know why. She was busy. There were lots of people. Because then I realized I just caught up with Fruity Knitting. She was recently on Fruity Knitting. So if she wasn't a celebrity before, she's definitely a celebrity now. But they were handing out discount cards for patterns that day, 50% off a pattern. And I saw a bunch of people, and I didn't realize they were all from her booth till later, wearing this gorgeous sweater there, both days of the marketplace. It's called the Azucena, Azucena. I don't even really know how to say that. And it was a yoke colorwork. I'll see if maybe I can insert a picture here. We'll see. But it's a beautiful yoke sweater, a colorwork yoke sweater. But then there were beads, but not a lot of beading. Almost subtle, like you didn't notice it at first, but when you did, it was so beautiful.
Gorgeous.
So I definitely noticed that multiple times, just walking around the marketplace and then in that booth. She also makes beautiful children's patterns. So I met her, and then I was continuing to walk around, and I met Britt Marie, a designer, in the Pasquale booth, and she was like, oh my goodness. And so we got a picture together, and I looked at some of her designs in the booth. Really beautiful, very elegant, classic, but also edgy, beautiful designs. So I definitely want to find one of her designs to knit. So hi, Britt Marie. So nice to meet you. And hi, Sandy and Claudia. And then at some point I saw one of our viewers that I've seen in Maryland. I've seen her at Rhinebeck, but it's Cheryl. She's Choco Cat Mom on Instagram. And she is so, you know her, right? Do you know her?
I have met her. Yes.
I think I met her at
Rhinebeck.
Lovely. Yeah. And just always has a big smile on her face. And I love her. Hi, Cheryl. So we got a picture together. But yeah, that was so fun. And so go ahead, tell us about where are we now? We're like Sunday.
Sunday. So Sunday morning, since I had 4 classes, and I know I've done it before where I've taken 2 classes in one day, and I mean, my brain is mush afterwards. It's just too much, too intense. So I ended up taking 1 class every day. And this was my 4th day, my 4th class, and I was so lucky to get into Joji Locatelli's Embellishing cables. And with this one, we had 2 swatches to do. And
it was the Solaire swatch. It was the same swatch that we did
right.
for our Italy retreat.
Yep.
Yes.
So this was one of them, and I had some Mayak medium. So I had it in 2 colors. I had a nice kind of an oatmeal-y beige and then a darker green. And so I did both of the swatches in this. And part of the embellishing that we learned was how to do overlay embroidery on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just so beautiful. So we practiced doing that on this one. And then we were to make an I-cord. And I do know how to make I-cords, but it takes a while. But one of the girls in the marketplace, Stephanie at Asylum Fibers, was selling these. So I did go and buy one. I still don't know how to use it. I've got to get on YouTube and learn. But Laura Nelkin is going to have a class tonight. I know this will be aired afterwards, but you can Google, you can look at the YouTube because it'll be recorded. Laura Nelkin is going to be doing a class on how to use this. The class is going to originally air tonight, which I believe today is the 20th, February 20th, Wednesday, February 21st at 7:30 p.m. So when you do see this, if you're interested, look on YouTube for her class. She's going to show us how to use it. The other one, we made an I-cord, and then she showed us how to interweave it into the different cables where the openings exist. You know, when you do your cables, you have like little holes, and how to embellish it. And she has several of her patterns that she has done this to. Any of her cable patterns, several of them have embellishing with
you can do it to this
I-cord. Yes.
Yeah, my I-cord might be hanging up there. You can do it to this, and it makes this cable, which is also already very impressive looking.
Right.
If you weave these I-cords in, it makes it look like such a complicated thing. And then you can actually do same color, different color, and you can like gently tie a little knot and leave it. You don't have to sew it in, and then you can remove it if you don't want them and put them back in. I mean, it's amazing.
Well, look what we ended up making. We have got knit hand mittens, fingerless mittens, with the I-cord being used to close up the side and put your finger through. So
That's
I'm going to be making more I-cord with this because I still have the beautiful green Mayak too. And I'll be closing this one up, so I would end up with my 2 fingerless mitts from this class.
Isn't that amazing? That's brilliant. Yeah. Oh, he's amazing.
But Joji is incredible. Just incredible. Lovely person.
So fun. So did you have any more classes or lectures after that?
That was the last class I took. The other 2 lectures I took, one was Joji Locatelli's, and that was on Friday evening. In fact, when I said I did a quick walkthrough of the marketplace, I took a class on Friday afternoon from 2 to 5. Then from 5 to 5:30, I did my quick walk through 5th floor and 6th floor because I had a lecture with Joji at 5:30 to 6:30. And then at 7 o'clock, the cocktail reception. But she did a class on goal setting. And she has had such an incredible life. I'm not sure if any of you follow her. I know she's very popular, but she's a trained physician, medical doctor. She went through class, became a doctor, graduated, realized she was so stressed by everything. And she also went through depression. And she talks very openly and honestly about this. And her mother was a knitter, wonderful knitter. Her mother is Virginia and is often on her podcasts with her. But her mother said, why don't you try to do some knitting? Get your mind off of it. And that's how she went into her creativity and designing. But she talked about how she sets her goals, how she establishes it to keep her from getting too anxious, too worried about what she has to do. And she travels all over the world, really teaching. And I am blessed. I'm going to be going on a cruise with her and Tin Can Knits and the Grocery Girls to Alaska at the end of May. So I'm looking forward to getting to meet her again and getting more classes from her. but it was a wonderful 1 hour lecture, how to set goals, how to be realistic, how not to beat yourself up if things don't happen the way you want them to. So it was just a lovely, lovely hour that she spent with us.
Oh, how fun. And then you took another lecture? Or you?
Yes, the other lecture I took was on Saturday morning, and it was with Nara that you had met at
Yes,
the
I love
retreat you
Nara,
went
yeah.
to.
Mm-hmm.
And she took 2 years out of her life to go to knitting conferences, workshops, events all over the world. She went to festivals in Europe, in Asia, in Australia, in Canada, America, South America. And she talked about that and her experiences and who she met. And I got to see Kim because she had some pictures from the event that she went to in the Dolomites up in northern Italy. And I said,
Yeah,
oh, I know the lady with the hair.
She became like a fiber journalist and kind of created her own
Yes.
little niche that I don't even know that even existed before that. I mean, Fiber Chats is somewhat similar. But yeah,
Yes.
so she's Knit Leaks on Instagram
Right.
and on YouTube, but she's also Knit Nara Knit. Yeah, on Instagram.
But
so she's so
that
lovely.
was amazing.
Yeah, that's so cool. So yeah, that was basically the only other thing I did on Sunday. I think or maybe I was with my friend Beth, I can't remember, but on one floor, maybe outside the 5th floor, there's all the artists are set up with all their booths, like these fiber artists. So I
like in the elevator lobby around it. Yes.
Yeah, a woman named Sarah of Sarah Divi Art had these big beautiful knit wings, and people could stand in front of the wings and get their picture taken. And the whole story, I asked her the story of how she came to make the wings, and it started one feather at a time. It's really a lovely story. So look up Sarah Divi Art. All these will be in the show notes. And then I also met Andy of Andy's Forest, and he just had, I mean, there was beautiful artwork everywhere. I didn't stop in every single booth because my friend was with me, but I had to stop at Andy's booth, and he had almost like a 3-dimensional, like when I said, can I get a picture with you? He said, yeah, let's go sit. We sat in his installation. We sat on this little cushion, and we're surrounded by his art. And he also had just some framed pictures of his art. Really, really, really beautiful. So creative.
Oh, yes.
They look like paintings, like you were in that space. And I asked him if he created them from a picture that already existed, or if he just came up with them. It's something in his mind that he created. And he's kind of a combination of both. But it's not an actual place. It's not from an actual picture, but really beautiful. And again, these pictures will be at the end. There was a woman, I forgot her name. She was also recently on Fruity Knitting. I can't believe I forgot her name. The one who had the cat display, all the cats, the stuffed cats.
Yes. Yes.
She recently was on Fruity Knitting for the animal sculpture, like animal things she knits. I'm so sorry that I forgot her anyway. She was dressed up in like Victorian attire and had this entire room with Victorian furniture and a whole almost like a scene, like a set of
it was like a sitting room from Victorian time too,
with cats in all different positions that she had knitted. And I didn't realize till later she was selling them. So by the time I went and I wanted to take a picture, a lot of them were gone. So I actually didn't take a picture, but that was amazing. The whole thing was amazing. I just love all the different, no matter what you do, just a fiber artist, as in like, just creating art or knitting or crocheting or weaving or any of these things. There's something for you at Vogue Knit Live. I just love it. I loved it. So then I basically got on the train, got back and got my bag, got on the train. I think I grabbed food at Grand Central and went home. And so what was the rest of your Sunday?
Well, after the marketplace closed down, I think it closed at 1:30, 2 o'clock. But I went back up to the room and was able to say goodbye to Beth because she was heading out then. And you had your stuff together. And we walked down together to the taxi area because, again, unfortunately, it was raining Sunday afternoon.
Boring. I know. I couldn't walk back to Grand Central. It's kind of annoying. But
yeah. So I walked down with you so you could get a taxi to go back to the train station. And then what I did, at that point, I had not had lunch because I had my class, and then I went to the marketplace to go around a little bit more. And I just decided I'm just going to go get a nice quick takeout lunch. I walked to the McDonald's in Times Square. And that was an experience too, because it's interesting. They don't have anybody at a counter that you can go up to. It's only the kiosks. Right. So I ended up ordering a meal and just walked back to the hotel, got up in my room, got comfortable, and just ended up enjoying a nice hamburger and French fries for dinner that night.
Fun. So I'm going to tell you about my purchases, and you can share with your purchases and the things you got in your goodie bags, and then we'll call it a video. How's that?
Okay.
So I only made 2 purchases. This, my Jelly Pop yarn, and I want to get more and knit more of these little bags. And then in the Unit booth, I purchased, I can't even remember which one. They had all these beautiful children's patterns.
Oh, yes.
Honestly, they gave me a couple for free, but I purchased one of them, and I can't remember which one I purchased. But they're just so beautiful. They were also giving out, I can order this free pattern, I think. There's a barcode on the back. I haven't done that yet. Hope I can still do it. And then they gave out a cute little bag.
Oh, nice.
You can always use another little project bag, right? But I did give in, and I think there was a discount on the kits. So I bought a kit, and my kit is, again, for the Azucena, Azucena, and there were different yarn company kits, and I got the Les Garçons kit, but I think they sold so many that they aren't going to be able to fulfill my kit until March. They emailed me right away and told me after the event and said, you know, they can switch it out for other yarn, but I really liked the original kit. The main color is black, and then the color work is in pink, a light pink. So
nice.
I don't have anything in those colors. Yeah. So I can't wait to get the kit. And obviously when I get the kit, I will share that with you, but those were my only, and that was truly a last minute purchase. My friend Beth did make a couple of purchases. She bought something at La Bien-Aimée. And I can't remember where else, but anyway, we had a lot of fun. So tell us about your purchases and your swag.
Well, if I can, and I'm going to have to reach over here. Let me show you what I got in my swag first.
Yeah.
So as you know, the keynote speaker for the main event was Aimée Gille from La Bien-Aimée. And so we ended up getting some nice La Bien-Aimée stuff. This nice, good-sized project bag. And then a smaller one, very similar, which is a notions bag. So, I mean, this was lovely. And this is definitely big enough to put a 2-3 skein project in. So it's not tiny. We also got a free skein of La Bien-Aimée yarn. And this one is a beautiful color. It's called the Happy Accident. It's kind of a reddish with some black, dark overtones in it too. I know it's hard to see. I don't have good lighting set up here. But of interest, going on this cruise that I'm going to take the end of May, it's with Holland Cruise Line. And I did not know the national color for Holland is orange. I'm not an orange person. I really don't have much orange. We got a notice that we have to wear orange one night. And I was telling my friend Sophia, you've got to help me figure out what I can buy, what I can get, because I own no orange yarn. Well, she said this was such a beautiful color. Maybe we could find something to go along with it. And I found this at the Brooklyn General booth. It's got some of the same dark red, reddish black, then into a little pink and with orange. So I'm going to use these 2 skeins to make a shawl for myself. And it'll have a pop of orange, but I'll be able to use that as the required orange for the event.
Nice.
So I bought that. Yeah, so it went along beautiful with it. In addition, with La Bien-Aimée, as you already showed, Kim, we had the Mr. Rogers book, but we received a nice knitting journal from La Bien-Aimée, and then these wonderful file cards that she recommends putting a little hole and you can clip it onto some of the garments when you give it as a gift. And it will have the information on what the name of the pattern is, who designed it, how to take care of it, what the material is. And then also some beautiful gold buttons. Yellow is Amy's favorite color. Yes. So you can see we have a lot of yellow with all the things that she provided for us. Then I also got another little project bag from Barocco. And then the other yarns. These are odds and ends, and I'm going to be sharing them with some of my knitting friends. I've got a couple of knitting groups. But this was a Pearl Soho 50% alpaca, Highland wool. It's kind of an olive green. I don't know if it's showing up very well. And then we got 2 skeins of a cotton yarn that is in a raspberry and kind of a darker green color. A full skein of Rowan sock yarn, which is beautiful, and I love knitting socks, so this will be used. Then we also got from Universal Yarn some of their alpaca silk, kind of a mohair type, a Surrey alpaca in 2 different colors, and I'm sure I'm going to be able to blend that into something. And then I was very lucky. I got one of the raffle prizes at the big dinner event. You got a ticket when you came in, and as I said, there were over 300, but they must have given out about 25
So you didn't
or
have
30.
to buy raffle tickets. You just got a ticket automatically.
Got a ticket when you came in. And then they'd call, and I think there was like 25 or 30 prizes. I ended up winning a sweater quantity of Rowan yarn in cotton cashmere. This is just one of them. And it's in a very like a celery green. My daughter's favorite colors are green. So this is going to make a wonderful summer tee for her. So I got a nice box full of this yarn. And I'm so glad I drove because I had to get all this stuff back. And it was much easier to put it into a car than onto a train or a plane. But then I went shopping. I went to visit Paolo at Mayak as well. I love their yarn. And as I'm browsing, Sophia wasn't with me at this point because she too was heading back a little bit earlier. She lives in Boston, so she was getting the train to go back to Boston. I found camel yarn. Did you get to see the camel yarn at Mayak, Kim?
Yes, I've seen it. We got camel yarn as our swag bag in Italy.
Oh, well, I've never seen camel yarn. And they had this beautiful rust color. And it really appealed to me. And I thought, well, that's kind of orange. So I ended up buying 2 skeins because I thought, well, maybe I'll make a cowl with this one, so I'll have
that's like
something else orange.
Yes,
it's a beautiful color, and so I ended up buying that from Paolo at Mayak, and then I have been friends with Stephanie of Asylum Fibers, and she lives in Connecticut, and she is just a lovely lady, and she had, sorry for the crinkles, she had these little cat kits. And my one granddaughter loves teal. That's her most favorite color in the world, with a matching pom-pom. And so I had to buy this. And so that'll be a Christmas gift for her next year. And then, of course, I bought the little I-cord maker from her. Stephanie had them there. Walking around, I just happened to see this beautiful shawl hanging from the Debonair, Debonnaire, Debonair booth. And it was beautiful lace work, but it is
those. It's
beaded, and
beautiful.
This is silk, and it's mulberry silk, pre-beaded, and there is 300 meters in this, so which means it's a little over 300 yards. And I saw, and she goes, "Oh, it just takes one of these," and just elegant, just gorgeous. Now this was a little pricey, because being the silk and pre-beaded, so it was a little expensive, but I just couldn't resist it. I ended up buying it. So I will be making that shawl. I was able to get the pattern.
I hovered in that booth for a while, but maybe one of the reasons I didn't purchase 2 is because I didn't drive and I would have to cart all of this back on the train. My suitcase was stuffed, but I saw that booth. It was gorgeous.
And one of the patterns, I've made a couple of Hohi patterns, and she's come out with this new kind of a long cardigan called the Milton, which is based on previous ones that she's done, the Elton. It's essentially a finger weight, or even maybe a light finger weight with a mohair or an alpaca alternating. And she's got this new one, the Milton, which is just beautiful. She makes hers to almost mid-thigh level. I would like to make that to have for our cruise going to Alaska. And Brooklyn General had her Milton there in 2 different colors. And when I went over to the booth, they had the one that she originally made, which was in a very, very pale pink color. Mm-hmm. And then Brooklyn General had made one as well in a color that they had, Aimée had made, called Winterfell. And apparently this is from the Game of Thrones. This color was made, some Winterfell, some colors that they had dyed. and I bought the sweater quantity worth. This was my big purchase. So I got the little como, which is a Suri alpaca silk, and her sport weight yarn. And it is like a very deep teal blue almost. It is just gorgeous. And Brooklyn Generals, well, Sophia was with me at this point. She goes, oh, that color will be great on you. You got to get it. You got to get it. So I ended up buying the sweater quantity worth. And that's going to be, when I'm done with the sweater I'm finishing up right now, that'll be my next project. So I'll have it ready to take with me on the cruise.
Oh, fun. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
But the cruise is only like 2 months away. You better get
I know. Well, no, I've got 3 months. It's end of February, so March, April, May. So I will get it done. I'm only going to make mine more like just a regular cardigan length. I don't want it that long down to my thighs, but hopefully I'm gonna get it done.
And we'll get to see the progress in our Cable 3.
Yes,
that'll be really fun.
Yes.
So this became a longer video than I thought. Pat, I have to say you're very good at this.
Oh,
like even mentioning sorry for the crinkle. That's a very podcaster thing to say.
Well, I know I hear people saying it, which again, I don't mind because I'd like to see it too. But I realized as I picked it up, I should have taken it out of the bag.
That's okay. But yeah, you're very good at this. You should start a podcast.
Oh, no. I'll just be glad to be a guest with you once in a while if you need me.
Oh, so fun. Yeah, really, really fun. Do you want to share your Instagram? Is it private or you don't have to?
No, that's fine. I only let people in that I allow, but I am pvalknit, PVALKNIT on Instagram.
Okay, so if you're seeing this and you want to follow Pat, then you might want to send her a message as well, just saying, hey, I saw you on Knit Together with Kim and Jonna. So it's not some random person, because I get all those random people too. And I know. So,
so if I don't know you through other friends, or because I really use my Instagram solely for my knitting. That's all. I don't have non-knitting friends, so to speak, in there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I do. Actually, we have our channel Instagram, which I manage. Because it's linked to my personal Instagram. So I have my personal one. Jonna has a personal one as well. So my personal one, I have knitting and I have my grandchildren and everything else I do. Yes. So my tap dancing and everything. But Pat, this has been so fun.
Oh, it has been. It's been wonderful. And everybody, I hope you've enjoyed the little recap from Vogue Knitting Live. We've really enjoyed sharing it with you. But make sure, don't forget, comment. Send us your comments. I know Kim and Jonna love reading those. And then the best thing too is we'd love it if you like it and subscribe. And for those of you that are interested, as Kim talked about earlier, if you become a member of their channel, there's so many perks. And it's just, you get to know each other really well.
Thank you, Pat. You're so good at that. I did tell her she gets to do that part. So my grandchildren always love to say, like, subscribe. I don't know. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
So thank you, Pat. And also we do have merchandise, which again, Pat is wearing one of our t-shirts.
Yes.
I've been actually thinking maybe we should order some from a different company and keep them at Pick Up Every Stitch and people can buy them in person. Maybe I'm thinking because this format, we use the spring platform and it's just not very user friendly and we just don't love it. We don't promote it that much either, but we might try to figure something else out. But it is still there. There's a link in our channel. And also, we haven't talked about Twice Sheared Sheep today, but we love Twice Sheared Sheep. We're affiliates, so you can order lots and lots of great knitting notions and goodies on Twice Sheared Sheep. So yeah, this has been so fun. Thank you so much. And
you're welcome.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
Okay. Take care, everybody. Bye.
All right, I'm not really going to hang up yet. But thank you so much, Pat. That was so fun.
Oh, it went well. I can't believe, too, it's like almost 2 hours we've been here.
Okay, so you saw the notes. So we're going to
Yes.
start. I'm going to say, our typical, welcome back to Knit Together with Kim and Jonna. I'm Kim, and then you're going to say, and I'm
not
Pat.
Jonna. Where should I be looking?
We never know what we're going to say, by the way, Pat. We just like talk.
I know.
It's fine. People will understand.
Right.
We're not really in the same room. Can you tell?